Hi everyone, welcome to the Muster Drill. I'm Scott and I've got an incredible, extraordinary story to talk about today. Hi everyone, welcome back. So, have I got an extraordinary story to talk about today? So, this story involves Norwegian Cruise Lines and a Canadian family and the, vaccine mandate, the vaccine requirement for being on a cruise. All cruise lines are requiring one way or another that somebody show show proof of vaccination or, in some cases apply, for an exemption. But in any event, there's one cruise line out there, Norwegian, that has a 100% vaccine mandate across the board thanks to their temporary win in court against the Florida vaccine passport law. So in any event, so this story I found, it actually comes from a consumer advocacy group called, I think, like the Elliott Group or something like that. So it involves a Canadian family who booked a cruise on the Norwegian Gem. So I'm going to try to lay all the facts down for this, and hopefully nothing will get lost in translation between my brain and my mouth. So, okay, so here we go. So this Canadian family, so this Canadian woman named Anna Karina Alvarez. So she's from Alberta, Canada, and she, her family booked this cruise on the Norwegian Gem, for the same reason anybody else, books a cruise, because they've been stuck at home for, 18 months or more. Apparently the Alvarezes are not, first-time cruisers. They're, they've cruised before, so they love cruising. They enjoy cruising, and, after being cooped up for 18 months, they're like, okay, let's go cruise. So they booked this cruise with Norwegian Gem. And, they used a travel agent because the travel agent, they were like, okay, there's so many new regulations and everything else. Let's just use a travel agent so that we're sure that we don't miss anything and that, we have everything, squared away. So they go ahead and use the travel agent. They book the cruise on the Norwegian Gem. I think it's doing like Western Caribbean or something. I think it's going to like, Mexico and stuff. So anyway, from Miami. So they booked the cruise and everything is, going along perfectly. And then there's an opportunity for them to submit an upgrade request or something like that. And they actually get approved for the upgrade and stuff. So they're upgrading the cabin. So they're like, yay, now we're going to be in a bigger, nicer cabin, and this is going to be great. And, we can't wait. And of course they have, they have children that are going, on this cruise. So everything is fine. They've talked to the travel agent. They've looked at everything. They've, covered all their bases. They're like, okay, we're good. We can't wait. They, get on a plane, they fly down to Florida, and they get to the ship that day, and they are about to drop their luggage off, or I guess they're dropping their luggage off with the porter or whatever, and they're told that they're not on the manifest. So they're like, okay, what's going on with this? They have all their paperwork, everything else is, perfect. So they call over a supervisor. They wait like 40 minutes or something like that for a supervisor. And the supervisor comes and tells them, listen, we're really sorry, but here's our, we have a very strict policy that, everybody must be vaccinated. And so here's the clincher before I go on, right? The Alvarez's daughter is 11 years old. So you're like, okay, she's 11. Like as I'm like reading this story, I'm thinking to myself, she's 11 years old. She can't go on a Norwegian cruise for sure, right? Because, it's vaccination only. She's 11 years old. She can't be vaccinated. I mean, we all know that vaccines are not approved for, for anyone younger than 12. And we know that, vaccines are they're working on vaccines or finding, evidence as it's going to be okay to vaccinate 5-year-olds, 5 to 11-year-olds. But I haven't heard that, being like officially done yet or anything, let alone like having already been done. So of course she has this vaccination card that, they show Norwegian. So I'm guessing Norwegian said, it's fake, right? I'm actually surprised the cops weren't called or something like that or whatever, right? So, okay, so they have this, so the Norwegian's like, okay, it's got to be fake because you have this, you have a passport or whatever for your 11-year-old daughter. It shows she's 11 years old. Vaccines are not approved for 11-year-olds. So whether you have a vaccine card for her or not, we're really sorry, but your family is not going to be cruising today. And they denied them boarding, rightfully so. You'd think to yourself, okay. So, so the family is like, okay, what are we going to do now? So the family, I guess, takes an alternative trip to Universal Studios or something like that. But, yeah. So it turns out, Anna Kendra Alvarez, the mom, she comes, back to Canada or whatever. She contacts this Elliott group or whatever, who's a consumer advocacy group. And even the people at Elliott, advocacy or whatever were like, come on, I mean, obviously they have to investigate all of their, all of the cases that come across to make sure that, they're not, advocating for somebody who's not in the right. So in any event, so, they were kind of like skeptical about it. They're like, no way. So they contact, a couple of different people and they kind of get nowhere. And then eventually their, attempts to get some, clarification on all this gets forwarded to somebody at the Alberta Public Health Department or whatever. And the response comes back that yes, Alberta made, the government of Alberta made this decision that if a child was born in 2009, regardless of when in 2009, it doesn't matter. So if they're 11 years old, if they're not 12 yet, doesn't matter. They're going to get vaccinated. And it turns out there's maybe some other provinces, in the Great White North that are doing the same. Apparently there are other ones, and there's a list of them or something like that. There's like a handful of them that are doing it. So I'm just like, I was like blown away. I'm like, what? I couldn't believe this. So I'm like, all right, interesting enough. So yeah, so of course, the mom has been trying to get a refund from Norwegian. Like she had tried like 5 or 6 times before she went to this Elliott group, to say, Norwegian kept denying the refund. They kept saying, nope, here's our vaccination policy. It's very clear. You didn't follow it. It's your fault. You're done. You're not getting a refund. End of story. So yeah, so okay, so then of course this Elliott group then, armed with this information from the Alberta Public Health Department, contacts Norwegian, sends all this information to him, and then of course Norwegian comes back and says, oh, okay, based on this situation, we'll be processing a full refund for you, either in the form of a future cruise credit or a monetary refund to the original payment method. So hooray for the outcome of it, and that the Alvarezes were able to get their money back. But I was blown away by this. I was like, I cannot believe this, So I'm thinking, what is Canada doing? Because I don't hear anything on the news that Canada, is vaccinating 11-year-olds. Like, I haven't heard anything about it. And I'm like, wow. So, yeah, so tell me what you think about this. Like, have you heard about this? Have you, seen news articles or whatever that the Canadians are vaccinating 11-year-olds? Leave me a comment below. Tell me what you think about it. So I think that's going to do it for today's video. Thank you very much for tuning in, and if you like this video, don't forget to click that like button, and then don't forget to hit the subscribe button. It'll really help us out a lot. Won't cost you anything. You click it once and you're done. And then don't forget to click the notification bell so that you know every time we upload a new video. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.